welcome to my channel. My name is Briöna Jolie, and I am a spiritual mentor, a teacher of magic and spiritual arts and becoming our most wild self. And I also am a channel. I channel the Akashic Records, and I help other people learn to channel for themselves as well. Learn to channel animals and spirit guides and ancestors and all those fun, wild, magical things. So thank you so much for being here. This video is a little different. I tend to do a lot of teaching on this channel, and although I'll probably be teaching here a little bit because that is who I am, what I do, what I love, I always like to have whoever I am in front of walk away with something that they've learned, or that they have found wisdom remembered within themselves. That's just a passion of mine. And I am also going today try a little bit of storytelling and a little bit of welcoming you all more into my personal life. So to welcome you a little bit further into my personal life, I have a pretty big life update to share with you all, and that is 2 weeks ago, me and my partner Dieter got engaged. We got engaged after being together for almost 3 years, living together for about exactly that same time, 2.5 years. And we got engaged while on a trip to Colorado. And that trip to Colorado was really important for both of us. Well, especially important for Dieter with what he had planned, but especially important to both of us because we planned that trip knowing that together we wanted to start a life, eventually start a family one day in Colorado and start a new chapter to our relationship together there. And Dieter decided that our first trip out there together would be the day that he wanted to propose, to start that next chapter. And soon we are going to be officially moving there in just a few short months. So as I've been sharing this news with the Instagram community, my Facebook community, if you didn't already know, I am most alive, most active there. I love my YouTube community. But I tend to be a perfectionist when it comes to making videos and crafting videos. And when I sit down to create a video, I like to take my time with it. Which is why you might see a video from me like every month or so. Whereas on Instagram and the Facebook group, I'm a little bit more relaxed. And we play a lot more. So if that is something that you're intrigued by and want to spend more time in my space, come on over. But I wanted to share with you guys the YouTube community because it is this special time that I like to take ample amount of time explaining things, sharing things, teaching things, contemplating things, talking out loud, talking to you as you watch. So when I shared my engagement, I had the idea, or I had the feeling that I wanted to create a video about conscious relationships as well as spiritual partnerships in general. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I know, long intro, sorry. But I knew that this was going to be an awesome video to film because not only because in my guidance, I knew that that was something I wanted to create, but when I asked the Instagram community, my wolf pack there, a lot of people, way more than I imagined, said that they really wanted to see this video. So hey, if you're from over there. I wanted to share a little bit about me and Dieter's story, about relationships in general, as a spiritual being or as someone who has a spiritual practice or likes to live their life through a magical and or spiritual soul-led lens, and a little bit of what I've learned, what I've witnessed in my and Dieter's relationship, and anything that I can share that can help anyone else moving forward who might desire that as well for themselves. So I want to start by answering a question I received from someone from the community about this. And this will kind of be the start to me talking about our story. They asked if me and Dieter were both spiritual or on our own paths before we met, or did this kind of happen after we met? Did we kind of form our spiritual practices together while we started our relationship or in the middle of our relationship? And me and Dieter actually were on our own separate spiritual paths before coming together. So when we met on an online app, Bumble, for those of you guys who might know. And on Bumble, you can actually list kind of what your likes, your dislikes are. You get a lot of really good questions, I think, personally, off the bat. Or Bumble actually makes you answer some of those questions, like really big ones. That you might like hide or not talk about on a first date. Bumble does a really good job of making you do that. So one of the questions was, when creating a profile, is like, what is your, are you spiritual? Are you religious? If so, like, can you describe that? And that's front and center on your profile. And me and Dieter's were both spiritual as the label. And of course that can be defined later, asked about later in conversation, and we did. That was one of the first things that we spoke about on the very first day that we met. I was super intrigued because I personally at that point in my life, at 23 years old, had never met a man who considered himself spiritual or had a spiritual practice. Now, after meeting Dieter, I've actually met a ton. So they're obviously out there. I don't know why in my lifetime that was only the first time I met someone. So I was super intrigued what he did, what his practice was, what spirituality meant to him. And I learned that Dieter was Norse pagan, which if you don't know what Norse paganism is, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it here, but you can look it up. Basically, it is spirituality rooted in Norse mythology. You can be Norse or have Norse ancestors, but you don't have to be to follow that practice. But it comes from a specific origin or region in the world, which is Germany, Scandinavia, the northern regions, what their magical practices, what their beliefs were, what gods and gods that they listened to. And that was his practice. And I got to share a little bit about mine, how mine had a little bit more of a worldview. I kind of I could kind of integrate a lot of different practices within my lens. And sometimes I lean more towards others and vice versa. But yeah, we had our own spiritual practices, and Dieter was on his paths for a few years before meeting me, and me as well. It had been years of me coming into my own awareness, coming into my own healing, my own learnings, and having my own identity for what spirituality meant for me. And a few other things that I wanted to talk about in this video that pertains to spiritual relationships and conscious partnerships is 3 things that I feel help define this a little better. Like, if this is something that you desire or look for, these would be 3 things that I would say to look for in your partnership. And I also want to define what I personally feel like a spiritual relationship means to me. So I actually wrote this down and I want to share it with you. I said a spiritual relationship means to me that both partners have acknowledged spirit, Not that both have the same gods, both have the same exact beliefs, or the way that they do their work or rituals, but simply that they both acknowledge spirit, that they honor spirit within them. And yeah, and just connection to universe, to magic, to other than just this physical world. We acknowledge and honor the other realms, the realms beyond this one, the magic of the quantum. But again, it doesn't need to be or have the same definition. We don't need to agree on how every sequence or practice goes, which is actually true to our relationship as well. When we have conversations about what I might think what manifestation is, he looks at it in a totally different lens. Or the way I might do divination work with runes or tarot or something else, he does it a completely different way. So an important part of this, which leads into one of the first things that I said, if someone were to ask me what are like the most important foundation pieces to conscious relationships, spiritual partnerships, is this desire for balance in a relationship. And that balance is really crucial because I believe that when your fate, your own destiny, your spirit guides, your ancestors, whoever is looking out for you and is guiding you to meet this partner, that they and your highest self both selected this person that is going to teach you immense lessons, not only about yourself, but can also teach you immense lessons for your own spiritual benefit and healing, and vice versa for the other partner as well. Like for example, Dieter always tells me that there's a lot of things that I've opened him up to within his practice, but more importantly, his consciousness, he said, has expanded a lot. His point of view on things, the world, and just how he navigates life, which is a very spiritual act, is awareness and heightening that awareness. And Dieter has in turn given me a lot more to dive into. Since meeting Dieter, I've been able to dive in way more confidently into ancestral work. Watching Dieter do his practices at first, which were drastically different than mine, intrigued me and made me super curious about things that I never thought of before when it comes to spirituality or my practice. And now I've adopted a lot of them. Again, being in a spiritual partnership doesn't mean you both have to be Buddhist, you both have to be Norse pagan, you both have to do whatever, but we both accept spirit into our lives and we both see beyond just this lens of this physical reality. We honor that, we accept that, and we bring that into our lives, yet that can look different. And it does create a certain balance within your partnership, within your home. And I personally believe it just brings more life to our lives, right? So that was one thing, is balance, and especially being able to share, to be in connection and communication with our practices, and sharing and giving and receiving and giving and receiving when it comes to just the partnership overall, or your spiritual practices, or your awareness, your beliefs, your ideas, and that always being an exchange and creating just balance in your partnership and in your worlds. So yeah, the second thing I would say that makes up my spiritual partnership, or what I would say would make up a spiritual partnership, one that you might desire, is an open awareness for each other's needs and desires. Basically, you guys openly talk about each other's dreams, that your partner is aware of your dreams and that you're aware of your partner's dreams. And not only are you rooting for your partner in manifesting those dreams, or feeling like they are deserving of them and know that they are worthy of them, but like truly believing it for them as well, like believing in the possibility, the endless possibilities that, you know, what they speak of can and will happen, and being an anchor for them, so that whenever they might be doubting themselves, whenever their ego might be playing a role in the situation, or fear or anything else, maybe there's like an old wound coming up, your partner is there to tether you back into your desires, tether you back into the awareness of the possibility, and into the sheer belief that you can, because of your magic, because of who you are, because they see your soul. Oh my goodness. Does a spiritual partner in a conscious relationship is all about seeing each other's souls beyond the human, beyond just this physical reality. Like they see the highest version of you, and almost they see that and can look at you and just and see it all the time, even when we're kind of in our own head doubting ourselves, or not totally in that vibe, that they still see and honor that part of you, which just like shines to them. And I would say the third thing, to me, what makes up my spiritual relationship, or what I would call a conscious partnership, or something that I would really value in that, is, of course, because this is the foundation to our practice, right? Anyone's practice, whatever religion, whatever belief system, whatever you might follow, as spirit, as source, as God, as goddess, as whatever, the foundation is love, right? The foundation all comes to love, and the love for ourselves, wanting to be a better human, wanting to be a better soul, or a more evolved soul. So I would say that foundation exists within the partnership first and foremost, and that everything else, however it plays out, is just an expression of that love. You know, attractiveness is just an added expression of that love, or the way your partner does a certain something that you find really adorable or sweet is just an expression of that foundation of love. I've witnessed that in this partnership, and why I think beyond my other partnerships, why this one is so different, and why I would call this one particularly a conscious relationship or a spiritual relationship, is because I can't confidently say that my other relationships had that foundation first. It might have began just out of lust, or out of boredom, or out of need, or craving for love, but the foundation of love, it didn't start there. It started from something else, and that typically tended to be ego driven. But what I would say, yeah, the most different and important piece of this relationship, and all spiritual or conscious relationships that I've seen, is that foundation of love first. Which, if this is something that you desire, a long-lasting monogamous relationship, and I can only speak on monogamy because that's the type of partnership I am in. If that is something that you also desire, then that foundation of love will be the most important piece to your spiritual partnership, and that is the one thing that you will need to foster, and the rest is the bonus, is the expression, is just the fun of it, right? So those are the big pieces. If you have any questions on this, if you want to ask personal questions, feel free to ask them. I might answer them, I might not, depending on what the question is, but just feel free. You can ask me below in the comments, or you can message me on Instagram if you follow me on there. But I'd love to continue this conversation if it excites you, if it inspires you, if it is opening up your mind or your world to new questions or things or curiosities. I do in fact have a lot to say on this. if the questions are asked, because I definitely have a long history of learning and understanding a lot about relationships through my own trials, errors, and all the other learnings that come with that. And now being engaged and what that's going to be like. Yeah, so that's the big news, the big share. This is a little bit about my relationship with Dieter, who is a fantastic human being that I get to share more of on Instagram again, if you want to come over there, and a little bit on my perspective on spiritual relationships and conscious partnerships. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, I love you, I love you, and I'll see you again sometime soon.